Right now, your body is covered in tons of pathogens, but luckily, your body is like a fortress and does a good job at defending against them. For defense, there are two different kinds of immunity, innate and adaptive. First, we'll discuss innate immunity. Innate immunity is compared to the defenses of your fortress. You have the first line of defense, your skin and mucous membranes. These are the walls and the cannons and other weapons. Your skin does the obvious part of keeping stuff out by keeping all of your insides safe. But what you might not know is that your digestive tract is also part of this because bodies are just like tubes. And your mucous membranes are the part that ward pathogens away from your body with mucus. That's where all the snot comes from when you're sick.
The second line of defense is inflammatory response. A good way to explain this defense system is through the process of an allergic reaction. Mast cells in the connective tissue search for suspicious substances like unknown proteins and use signaling molecules like histamines when they find them. Histamines make blood vessels more permeable, which allows liquid to flow to the area otherwise known as inflammation. But histamines also signal white blood cells to come. This is why we take allergy medicine, antihistamines, to stop the histamines from activating and causing the allergy itchiness we all hate. This diagram here shows us how the allergy medicine works via signaling. As you can see, the antihistamine blocks the receptors so the histamine can't be activated to cause the allergic reaction. This is just a basic example of how cell signaling works and really shows how the two processes of the immune response and cell signaling coexist.
The other part of the second line of defense are the different white blood cells and their functions. There are phagocytes, which are cells that perform phagocytosis. The two big kinds of these are neutrophils and macrophages. Neutrophils are the most abundant and travel throughout the bloodstream for fast transport. They die immediately after killing the infection. Macrophages, on the other hand, stay in one place and can eat hundreds of bacteria before they die. They attack outside invaders as well as cells gone rogue, like cancer cells.
The other two types of white blood cells involved in innate immunity are natural killer cells and dendritic cells. The natural killer cells are like the first responders and can sense when a cell is stressed, even before it starts releasing a chemical that signals when a cell is infected. When they reach the stressed cell, they release enzymes which then dissolve the cell membrane and destroy the sick cell. Dendritic cells are the bridge between adaptive and innate immune system, and they are located on the skin. They work by getting information from pathogens they destroy and sending the information to other cells, a process called antigen presentation, which we'll discuss a little later on.
Back to the fortress. Beyond the walls and weapons of the castle, you have your army, ready to fight any battle. This army we are referring to is actually your adaptive immune system, which gathers intelligence about antigens that affect your body and remembers them so that if they come back, your body is prepared. Antigens are anything that causes your immune system to ID a pathogen and create an antibody against it. Antibodies aren't cells, but special proteins that inhibit invaders.
There are two types of lymphocytes, T cells and B cells. They are differentiated by where they mature and by what processes they are involved in. First, we have the T cells, which mature in the thymus and are used in the cell-mediated response. There are helper T cells and memory T cells. Helper T cells can't kill pathogens themselves, but they activate and direct those who can. They are like the Army's commander. They also get information from the dendritic cells about what bad pathogens are coming. Once they get the antigen presented to them from the dendrites, they attach it to themselves and send out a signal to all the lymphocytes that there is an infection. Helper T cells then divide and create memory T cells to catalog the antigen for later infections.
The other type of lymphocytes are the B cells. B cells mature in the bone marrow and are involved in the humoral response. This involves the B cells floating around and catching any pathogens that it recognizes before they infect the body. B cells can have up to 100,000 antibodies on them at once, but even so, some pathogens can still give them the slip. If a pathogen that the B cell recognizes is found, many of those B cells are cloned and made into either an effector cell, which calls for antibodies, or a memory cell, which remembers the pathogen for future immunity. Sometimes your immune system doesn't work, though.
As you know, there are some diseases that just disregard the immune system, like cancer and AIDS. Whereas germ cells are very easily differentiated from normal body cells, cancer cells are less easy to differentiate. Instead of being like an opposing army, they are more like traitors within the ranks of the human cells. This is why cancer can spread so easily, because the immune system oftentimes does not recognize it as being foreign, and even if it does, the immune response isn't strong enough to fight it off on its own. That is why outside help is needed before it is too late, and that is why we have treatments for cancer, like chemotherapy. This is not a cure, but it can help the cancer go into remission.
HIV/AIDS is an immune deficiency disorder that doesn't just attack the immune system, it invades it and takes over. HIV infects your helper T cells and destroys them, and without your helper T cells, your body is not able to respond to other minor infections. As it destroys more and more of your helper T cells, the more susceptible you are to disease and something as simple as the common cold.
So for review, in this video we have learned about innate and adaptive immunity and the parts to both of them. Innate involved the skin, mucous membranes, and inflammatory response, which involves white blood cells such as neutrophils, macrophages, natural killer cells, and dendritic cells. The adaptive immune system splits into the cell-mediated response and the humoral response. The cell-mediated response is the interaction with T cells and antigens, and the humoral response is the interaction of B cells and antigens. We also covered what happens when your immune system can't help your body. Are you ready for the quiz?
When I go to the doc, all germs run free. I think I have the flu. All germs bite me. We like the throat. We love the nose. We came to block. Everybody is home. Shot, 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 shot. Everybody, shot, 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 shot. Everybody. The T cells hate us when we attack. They need an excuse to break our back. Ow! I came to get cured. How will you? Needles up. Let's go round two. Shot, 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 shot. Everybody, shot, 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 shot. Everybody.